The alarm rang loud across Luna Station. Lisa Adams jumped from her chair and ran to the main control panel. She had been working the night shift at the Galactic Communications Center for 3 years, but she had never heard this kind of signal before. "What is that?" asked her partner, Mike Chen, rubbing his eyes. He had been sleeping on the small couch in the corner of the room. "I don't know," Lisa said, her fingers moving fast across the keyboard. "But it's coming from outside our solar system, way outside." The signal was strange. It was not like the usual space noise they picked up every day. This was different. It had a pattern. It was trying to say something. Lisa worked for 2 hours to decode the message. Her hands were shaking as she read the first few words that appeared on her screen. "Please help us," the message began. "We are the Zephyrian Republic. Our world is dying. The Korthak Empire has come to destroy us. They have big ships and many weapons. We have nothing to fight them with." Mike looked over her shoulder and read the words. "Is this real?" he asked. "I think so," Lisa said. "Look at these numbers. They are giving us their location. 12 light years from Earth. That's the Kepler 442 system." The message continued. "We know about humans. You helped us before when our people were sick. You gave us medicine that saved millions of our children. We did not forget your kindness. Now we ask for help again. Our cities are burning. Our people are dying. Please come quickly." Lisa's heart was beating fast. She had heard about the Zephyrians before. 20 years ago, when the Mars colonies got hit by a terrible disease, the Zephyrians had sent medicine to Earth. They had never asked for anything in return. Now they were asking for help. "We need to call Admiral Sullivan," Lisa said. "Admiral." Jake Sullivan was sleeping in his quarters on the orbital defense platform when his phone rang. It was 3 a.m. Earth time. "This better be important," he said into the phone. "Sir, we have a situation," Lisa said. "We got a distress call from the Zephyrian Republic. They are under attack." Jake sat up in his bed. He knew about the Zephyrians, good people, peaceful. They had helped Earth during the Mars plague crisis. "Are you sure the message is real?" he asked. "Yes, sir. I ran it through all our tests. It's coming from their home system. And sir, there's more. They say the Korthak Empire is attacking them." Jake felt cold. The Korthak Empire was bad news. They were known across the galaxy for being cruel and violent. They took over planets and made slaves of the people living there. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Jake said. Jake got dressed quickly and took a transport ship to Luna Station. When he arrived, Lisa showed him the full message. As he read it, his face became serious. The Zephyrians had sent more information. They said the Korthak had 40 ships surrounding their planet. The aliens were bombing cities and killing anyone who tried to fight back. The Zephyrian people had no weapons to defend themselves. They were a peaceful species who had never fought a war. "How long do they have?" Jake asked. "Maybe a few days," Lisa said. "The message is already 6 hours old. It took 12 years for their signal to reach us." Jake thought about this. Even with their fastest ships, it would take 3 weeks to reach the Zephyrian system. By then, it might be too late. But he also knew that Earth had a debt to pay. The Zephyrians had saved millions of human lives on Mars. Now it was time to return the favor. "I need to call President Collins," Jake said. President Collins was having breakfast with his family when the secure phone rang. His wife looked at him with worried eyes. The secure phone only rang when something big was happening. "Mr. President," Jake said, "we have a situation." Jake explained about the distress call and the Korthak attack. President Collins listened, without saying a word. "You're sure about this?" the president asked. "Yes, sir. Dr. Helen Wright confirmed the message is real. She's our best expert on alien languages." Dr. Wright had been studying the Zephyrian language for 20 years. She was the one who had helped translate their medical information during the Mars crisis. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" President Collins asked. "We need to help them, sir. They saved our people. Now we need to save theirs." President Collins was quiet for a moment. He knew this decision could change everything. Earth had never sent military ships outside the solar system before. But the Zephyrians were friends, good friends. Call an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council, he said. We'll vote on this in 2 hours. The emergency meeting was held in the big conference room in Geneva. Representatives from every country on Earth were there, some joined by video call from space stations and moon bases. President Collins stood up and explained the situation. He showed them the message from the Zephyrians. He reminded them about how the aliens had helped Earth during the Mars plague. The question is simple, he said. Do we help our friends, or do we turn our backs on them? Some people were against sending military ships so far from Earth. Senator Brown from North America said it was too dangerous. What if the Korthak come here next? He asked. But most people agreed with President Collins. The Zephyrians had been good friends to Earth. It was time to return their kindness. The vote was close but clear. 47 countries voted to send help. Only 8 voted against it. Admiral Sullivan, President Collins said, "You have permission to assemble a fleet. Save our friends." Jake nodded. "Yes, sir. I won't let them down." Back on the orbital defense platform, Jake called his best officers together. Captain Ryan Torres commanded the heavy cruiser USS Vengeance. Captain Pete Williams ran the transport ships. Colonel Amy Parker was in charge of supplies and weapons. "We're going to war," Jake told them. "The Zephyrians need our help, and we're going to give it to them." "How many ships do we have?" Ryan asked. 58, Jake said. "Every combat ship we can spare. The USS Defiance will be our flagship." The USS Defiance was the biggest and strongest ship in Earth's fleet. It had been built to defend Earth against alien attacks. Now it would be used to defend aliens against other aliens. "What about the Korthak?" Pete asked. "What do we know about them?" "Not much," Jake admitted. "Intelligence says they have about 40 ships. Their technology is different from ours, but we don't know if it's better or worse." Colonel Parker spoke up. "Sir, we need to load extra supplies. Medical equipment, food, repair parts. If we're going 12 light years from home, we need to be ready for anything." "Do it," Jake said. "We leave in 48 hours." As the meeting ended, Jake looked out the window at Earth below. The blue planet looked peaceful and safe. But somewhere in space, good people were dying, and Earth was going to help them. It was time to show the galaxy what humans could do when their friends were in trouble. The message had been clear. Aliens cried for help. Now humans would bring a fleet. The next 48 hours were the busiest in Earth's military history. Ships from all over the solar system came to the meeting point near Mars. The USS Defiance led the way, its silver hull shining in the sunlight. Captain Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance watching the other ships arrive. He had never seen so many warships in one place. There were big cruisers, fast destroyers, and support ships carrying supplies and medical equipment. "Impressive sight," said his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kate Morgan. She was young but very smart. Admiral Sullivan had picked her to be the fleet's main tactical officer. "It sure is," Ryan said. "I just hope it's enough." On the USS Defiance, Admiral Sullivan was meeting with his senior officers. The main conference room was full of captains and commanders from different ships. "Listen up, everyone," Sullivan said. "We have 3 weeks to get to the Zephyrian system. That's 3 weeks to prepare for the biggest fight in human history." Captain Pete Williams raised his hand. He commanded the transport and medical ships. "Admiral, what about refugees? If the Zephyrians are under attack, there might be survivors who need help." "Good point," Sullivan said. "Dr. Emma Blake will lead the medical teams. Pete, your ships will handle evacuation if needed." Dr. Blake nodded. She was Earth's best military doctor. She had worked on Mars during the plague and knew how to treat both humans and aliens. "What about the enemy?" asked Captain Nina Rodriguez. She commanded a squadron of fast attack ships. "What do we know about Korthak technology?" Lieutenant Kate Morgan stood up. She had been studying everything they could find about the Korthak Empire. "Not much," she said honestly. "But here's what we know. They use energy weapons, mostly plasma cannons. Their ships are big and heavily armored, but they seem to be slow. They also like to board enemy ships and fight hand-to-hand. "That's their mistake," said Marine Commander Steve Johnson. He was a big man with scars on his face from previous battles. "My Marines are ready for anything." Admiral Sullivan looked around the room. The Korthak have never fought humans before. They don't know what we can do, that's our advantage. The meeting ended and everyone went back to their ships to prepare. The next few days were full of activity. On the USS Lightning, Captain Luke Davis worked with his weapons officer to test their new railgun systems. The railguns could fire metal slugs at incredible speed. They were much faster than the old missile systems. "How many shots do we have?" Luke asked. 200 per gun, his weapons officer replied. "Should be enough for a good fight." Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Danny Clark was working on the USS Defiance's power systems. The ship would need extra power for the new experimental weapons they were carrying. "These plasma torpedoes use a lot of energy," he told his team. "We need to make sure the reactors can handle the load." Danny had been an engineer for 15 years. He had worked on everything from small fighters to big space stations, but he had never worked on weapons this powerful before. In the medical bay, Dr. Blake was training her staff to treat alien injuries. They had some information about Zephyrian biology from the old medical exchanges, but treating battle wounds would be different. "Remember," she told her nurses, "Zephyrians have blue blood, not red. Their organs are in different places than humans. Be careful." The medical teams also prepared for human casualties. This would be the first time Earth's military fought a real space battle. Nobody knew how many people might get hurt. As the fleet traveled through space, the crews trained every day. Fighter pilots practiced attack runs. Gunners learned to hit moving targets. Marines prepared for boarding actions. Lieutenant Sarah Hill was one of the best fighter pilots in the fleet. She was flying a new experimental stealth fighter that could hide from enemy sensors. "The key is to stay invisible," she told the other pilots. "Get close, hit hard, and get out before they know what happened." Sarah had grown up on a space station near Jupiter. She had been flying since she was 12 years old. Now, at 25, she was one of Earth's top pilots. The journey to the Zephyrian system took exactly 3 weeks. During that time, the fleet stayed in formation and communicated using tight beam transmissions to avoid detection. Admiral Sullivan spent most of his time studying star maps and battle plans. He knew this fight would be different from anything humans had done before. "In space, there's no place to hide," he told Kate Morgan during one of their planning sessions. "It's all about speed, firepower, and tactics." Kate had been working on different attack strategies. "The Korthak will probably be in a defensive formation around the planet," she said. "If we can split their attention, we might be able to break through." "What do you suggest?" Sullivan asked. Kate pointed to her star chart. "We divide into 3 groups. Ryan Torres leads the heavy ships in a frontal attack. That will get their attention. Meanwhile, Commander Alex Turner takes the fast ships and hits their supply lines. Captain Rodriguez blocks their escape routes." Sullivan nodded. "And if that doesn't work?" "Then we use our secret weapons," Kate said with a small smile. The secret weapons were the experimental plasma torpedoes and particle beam cannons. Earth scientists had been working on them for years, but they had never been tested in real combat. As they got closer to their destination, the mood on the ships became more serious. Everyone knew they were going into a fight that could determine the future of 2 species. Captain Chris Baker commanded the science ship USS Discovery. His job was to study Korthak technology during the battle and learn how their weapons worked. "Stay back and observe," Admiral Sullivan had told him. "We need to know everything about these aliens." On the 3rd week of their journey, long-range sensors began picking up signals from the Zephyrian system. What they found was not good news. "I'm reading multiple explosions on the planet's surface," reported the sensor officer on the USS Defiance, "and there are a lot of ships in orbit." Admiral Sullivan looked at the sensor data. The Korthak fleet was exactly where Kate had predicted, surrounding Zephyrian Prime like a wall of steel. "How many ships?" he asked. 38 confirmed, the officer replied. "Maybe more hidden behind the planet." Sullivan turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to all ships, battle stations, we're going in." Throughout the fleet, alarms began to ring. Crews ran to their positions. Weapons were charged. Fighters launched from their carriers. The moment of truth had arrived. Earth's fleet was about to face its first real test in space combat. But as Admiral Sullivan looked at his tactical display, he felt confident. Humans had come to help their friends, and they had brought everything they had. The Korthak were about to learn what happened when someone hurt humanity's allies. The human fleet dropped out of quantum drive at the edge of the Zephyrian system. What they saw made everyone's heart sink. The beautiful blue-green planet that had been described in old files was now covered with dark smoke clouds. Fires burned across entire continents. "My God," whispered Captain Ryan Torres from the bridge of the USS Vengeance. "Look what they've done." Around the planet, 38 Korthak ships formed a tight blockade. The alien vessels were huge and dark, like floating metal mountains. They had sharp edges and glowing red lights that made them look evil. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, studying his enemy through the main screen. The Korthak ships were bigger than human vessels, but they looked old and slow. "All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan," he said into his communicator. "Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Torres, take your heavy ships and hit them head-on. Turner, swing around and hit their rear guard. Rodriguez, block their escape routes." "Understood, Admiral," came the replies from his captains. The battle began immediately. Captain Ryan Torres led 12 heavy cruisers straight toward the center of the Korthak formation. Their railguns opened fire from maximum range, sending metal slugs racing through space at incredible speed. The first shots caught the Korthak completely by surprise. 3 of their ships exploded instantly as railgun slugs punched through their armor like paper. The aliens had never faced weapons this fast before. "Direct hit on the lead ship," shouted the weapons officer on the USS Vengeance. "Their shields are down." But the Korthak were not helpless. Their ships turned to face the human attack, and huge plasma cannons began firing back. Bright green energy bolts filled the space between the fleet's evasive maneuvers, Torres ordered as plasma bolts streaked past his ship. One bolt hit the USS Thunder, causing explosions along its hull. "Thunder is damaged but still fighting," reported the communications officer. Meanwhile, Commander Alex Turner led his fast attack ships around the side of the battle. His squadron included destroyers and frigates that could move quickly and hit hard. "There's their supply ship," Turner said, pointing at a large Korthak vessel hanging back from the main fight. "Take it out." The USS Lightning, commanded by Captain Luke Davis, raced toward the enemy supply ship. Its railguns fired continuously, creating a stream of metal death that tore through the alien vessel's armor. "Supply ship is breaking apart," Luke reported, moving to the next target. But the Korthak were learning fast. Their commander, a brutal alien called Warlord Garrick, began coordinating his ships better. The enemy vessels formed defensive circles and concentrated their fire. "They're adapting," Lieutenant Kate Morgan warned Admiral Sullivan. "We need to change tactics." On the other side of the battle, Captain Nina Rodriguez was having her own problems. Her fast attack ships were trying to prevent Korthak vessels from escaping, but the enemy was fighting harder than expected. "2 enemy ships are trying to break through Sector 7, she reported. "We're moving to intercept." The space battle was unlike anything humans had ever experienced. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Debris flew in all directions. The vacuum of space was filled with energy beams and metal projectiles. Lieutenant Sarah Hill was in the middle of the chaos, flying her experimental stealth fighter between the giant warships. Her job was to get close to the enemy flagship and gather information. "I'm approaching the big one," she reported over the radio. "It's huge, twice the size of our biggest ship." The Korthak flagship was a massive dreadnought covered in weapons and armor. Red lights pulsed along its hull like an alien heartbeat. This was Warlord Garrick's command ship. Sarah flew her stealth fighter close to the enemy flagship, avoiding its defensive guns. Her sensors recorded everything about the alien ship's design and weapons. "I've got targeting data," she reported. "Sending it to the Defiance now." Admiral Sullivan received Sarah's information just as the battle was reaching its most dangerous point. Several human ships were badly damaged, and the Korthak were pressing their attack. "Sir," Kate Morgan said urgently, "we're losing ships faster than we expected. We need to end this quickly." Sullivan looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was smaller than the enemy, and they were far from home. If they lost this battle, both humanity and the Zephyrians would pay the price. "Prepare the particle beam cannon," he ordered. The particle beam cannon was Earth's most powerful experimental weapon. It had never been tested in combat, and using it was risky. If it failed, the USS Defiance would be defenseless. "Weapon is charging," reported the weapons officer. "Target locked on the enemy flagship. All ships concentrate fire on the dreadnought," Sullivan ordered. "We're going to take out their commander." Every human ship that could still fight turned their weapons toward the Korthak flagship. Railgun slugs, missiles, and energy beams, all focused on the massive alien vessel. But the dreadnought's armor was incredibly thick. Most of the human weapons barely scratched its surface. The ship kept fighting, its plasma cannons destroying a human destroyer. "The regular weapons aren't working," Kate reported. "That armor is too strong." "Then we try the big gun," Sullivan said grimly. "Fire the particle beam." The USS Defiance's particle beam cannon activated with a sound like thunder. A beam of pure energy, brighter than a star, lanced across space and hit the Korthak flagship. The alien dreadnought's armor, which had resisted every other weapon, began to melt under the particle beam's incredible heat. The beam cut through the ship's hull like a knife through butter. "Direct hit," shouted the weapons officer. "We're cutting right through them." Inside the Korthak flagship, Warlord Garrick watched in horror as his ship was destroyed around him. He had conquered dozens of worlds, enslaved millions of beings, but he had never faced anything like human weapons. The particle beam reached the dreadnought's reactor core. The explosion that followed lit up the entire star system like a second sun. When the light faded, nothing remained of the Korthak flagship except glowing debris. "Enemy flagship destroyed," came reports from across the human fleet. "Their commander is dead. With their leader gone and their strongest ship destroyed, the remaining Korthak ships began to panic. Some tried to run, others surrendered. A few kept fighting, but their heart was no longer in the battle. Captain Rodriguez's ships caught most of the fleeing vessels. "We've got 12 enemy ships trying to escape," she reported. "Should we destroy them?" "Disable them if you can," Sullivan replied. "Take prisoners. We need to learn about their empire." The battle was over in less than 2 hours. Of the 38 Korthak ships, 15 were destroyed, 8 were captured, and the rest managed to escape into deep space. But the human victory came at a cost. 5 human ships were destroyed, and many others were badly damaged. Hundreds of brave men and women had died to save an alien world. As the guns fell silent, Admiral Sullivan looked down at the planet below. The fires were still burning, but the bombing had stopped. Somewhere down there, Zephyrian families were looking up at the sky and seeing hope for the first time in weeks. "All ships," Sullivan said into his communicator, "begin rescue operations. Let's go save our friends." The first thing Admiral Sullivan did after the battle was send rescue ships to the planet's surface. Commander Julie Foster led the rescue operations from her transport ship, the USS Mercy. She had experience helping people during disasters on Earth and Mars. "I'm seeing massive damage to the cities," she reported as her ship entered the planet's atmosphere. "But there are still signs of life everywhere. These people survived." Dr. Emma Blake worked alongside Julie, coordinating medical teams. The human doctors had studied Zephyrian biology during the journey, but treating real patients was different from reading textbooks. The first Zephyrian survivors they found were hiding in underground shelters beneath what used to be their capital city. When the human rescue teams arrived, the aliens were afraid at first. They had been bombed and attacked for weeks. But when the Zephyrians saw the human medical symbol on the rescue ships, they began to cry with relief. They remembered the humans, who had helped save their children during the Great Sickness 20 years ago. Prime Minister Veltar was one of the survivors pulled from the ruins of the government building. He was an old Zephyrian with blue skin and large, gentle eyes. When he saw the human soldiers helping his people, he could barely speak. "You came," he whispered to Commander Foster. "We called for help, and you actually came. We always help. Our friends?" Julie replied simply. Within hours, human medical teams were working side by side with Zephyrian healers. Dr. Blake discovered that despite their different biology, many human medicines worked well on Zephyrians. The aliens had similar reactions to pain relief and antibiotics. "We're setting up field hospitals in 12 locations," Dr. Blake reported to Admiral Sullivan. "The Zephyrians have lost about 30% of their population, but the survivors are strong. They'll recover." Meanwhile, Captain Chris Baker and his science team were studying the captured Korthak ships. What they found was both interesting and disturbing. "These ships are old," Chris reported from the USS Discovery. "Maybe 50 years behind our technology, but they have one advantage we don't." "What's that?" Admiral Sullivan asked. "Numbers. We found star maps in their computers. The Korthak Empire has over 300 ships spread across 20 star systems. They've been conquering planets for decades." This news worried Sullivan. Earth had just used most of its military fleet to win one battle. If the Korthak Empire decided to attack Earth directly, humanity might not be able to defend itself. But help came from an unexpected source. Prime Minister Veltar requested a meeting with Admiral Sullivan aboard the USS Defiance. The old Zephyrian leader had a proposal. "Admiral," Veltar said as they sat in the ship's conference room, "my people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You risked everything to save us." "We were just returning a favor," Sullivan replied. "Your people helped us during the Mars plague." "No," Veltar said firmly. "This was much more than returning a favor. You brought your entire fleet across 12 light years to fight for people you had never met. That is not just friendship. That is true alliance." The Zephyrian leader pulled out a datapad and showed Sullivan detailed plans for advanced technology. "We want to share everything with you," Veltar said. "Our agricultural systems can help you grow food on dead planets. Our terraforming technology can turn any world into a garden. Our manufacturing systems can build ships faster than anything you have." Sullivan looked at the technical plans with amazement. The Zephyrian technology was different from human designs, but in many ways it was more advanced. "In return," Veltar continued, "we ask for your protection, not just for our world, but for others who might need help. The galaxy is full of peaceful species being attacked by empires like the Korthak. You want us to be galactic police?" Sullivan asked. "We want you to be what you already are," Veltar replied, "protectors of those who cannot protect themselves." The idea was bigger than anything humanity had ever considered. Earth would become the military leader of a coalition of peaceful alien species. It would mean building more ships, training more soldiers, and taking responsibility for the safety of entire worlds. Sullivan thought about it carefully. It was a huge responsibility, but it was also an incredible opportunity. Humanity could help shape the future of the galaxy. "I'll need to talk to Earth about this," he said. The communication with Earth took 6 hours each way, but President Collins' response was clear. "Do it," he said. "If we can help create peace in the galaxy, we should try." Over the next few weeks, more alien species contacted the human fleet. Word of the victory over the Korthak had spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The Altarians, a bird-like species from the Vega system, asked for help against pirates who were stealing their trade ships. The Centauri Republic wanted protection for their mining colonies. Even some individual planets asked to join what was becoming known as the Galactic Protection Pact. Rear Admiral Kelly Santos was put in charge of the new organization. She had been Captain Rodriguez's second in command and was one of Earth's best strategic planners. "We'll need to build new bases throughout this region of space," Kelly explained to Admiral Sullivan. "We can't protect everyone from Earth. We need to be where the problems are." The first permanent human base was built in the Zephyrian system, on a small moon that had good defensive positions. The base was named Fort Friendship, and it became the headquarters for human operations in alien space. Captain Luke Davis volunteered to command the base. His ship, the USS Lightning, had performed well in the battle, and he wanted to stay and help rebuild the region. "It's like the old American frontier," Luke told his crew. "We're the cavalry, riding to help people in trouble." Back on Earth, the news of humanity's victory created enormous excitement. Humans had not only won their first space battle, but they had become leaders of an interstellar alliance. President Collins addressed the United Nations with pride in his voice. Today, humanity takes its place among the stars not as conquerors, but as protectors. We have shown that Earth stands with all peaceful beings in the galaxy. The speech was broadcast to every human colony and space station. On Mars, Luna, and the outer planet mining bases, people cheered. Humanity had found its purpose among the stars. But the real test came 3 months later, when Luna Station received another distress call. This time it was from the Rigel system, where an aggressive species called the Vax Empire was attacking peaceful traders. Admiral Sullivan, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, assembled a new task force. This time the human ships were joined by Zephyrian support vessels and Altarian scouts. "Looks like we're in business," Sullivan said to his staff as they prepared for departure. Lieutenant Sarah Hill, now promoted to squadron commander, led a wing of the new stealth fighters. The technology had been improved using captured Korthak data. "Ready when you are, Admiral," she reported. As the combined fleet left for Rigel, the pattern was set. When aliens cried for help anywhere in the galaxy, humans would bring a fleet. But now they wouldn't come alone. The age of human leadership among the stars had begun, and it had started with one simple principle. Friends help friends, no matter how far apart they are.